Welcome back to the Stars and Scrums. This is our fourth episode of the Men's Rugby Europe Championship. We are already looking to the finals. We have four belter off games to look on. And with me today, we have Jamie Lyall to talk about, well, the finals. No, let's not talk about semifinals because already gone and gone. And it's time to look forward to see what Portugal, Romania, Georgia, Spain, Switzerland, Germany, and Netherlands, Belgium will do on this final weekend. Jamie, it's been a very interesting season with a lot of old heroes stepping up, but new guys also shining. Um, wha- what's your feel about the Men's Rugby Europe Championship 2025?
I think it's been a great watch, Francisco. I think it's been a fantastic product as it almost always is. I think there've been some new storylines. We'll talk about some of them as we go through the podcast. I think Spain, for all sorts of reasons, the pain and the trauma they've been through to make it to a final, to beat Portugal in a thrilling semi-final last weekend. Sorry for bringing that up, pal, but it's going to be a key part of the podcast. And you're right. Some of the old war horses, the guys like Matt Folds and people like that who've been around the block who might now get the chance to go and play in the Rugby World Cup in a couple of years' time. The same for Georgia. We're seeing guys like Shalva Mamukashvili still putting it out there at Rugby Europe level, at EPCR level. It's been brilliant to see the real characters and the real war horses of these national teams continuing to excel, continuing to make a stand, and of course the development of the younger guys that you talk about, and in some cases we're going to talk about Spain again, but not necessarily the youngest player in the world, but seeing a guy like Joel Merkler getting the opportunity to come and play Rugby Europe Championship, having not played for Los Leones for a couple of years, been doing great things in Toulouse, but he now gets the opportunity to come in and grace this competition and give Spain such a boost. A guy of that caliber coming in, so I think it's been a fantastic watch. I think the ambition and the style of rugby has been excellent. I think for people who don't follow this championship, and there's a million reasons why you should, the quality and the ambition of the attacking intent is fantastic, of a real high pedigree. And we'll see that in some of the clips we're going to talk about and show the viewers later on. The attacking weaponry that these teams have, yes, the playing field is not always entirely level because you've got, historically, as you do in most competitions, you've got powerhouse teams such as Georgia, such as Portugal and Spain, who regard themselves as being contenders every year. But every side wants to play, and every side is capable of playing some brilliant rugby. And we saw that. I actually think we saw that on semi-final weekend, more so than probably any weekend in the competition so far.
Jamie, perfect as ever, and it's interesting because we are seeing history in the making. Switzerland for the first time in the Men's Rugby Europe Championship, showing that we have another great growing nation trying to take a scalp or two, but also we have guys like Akaki Tabutsadze, who is, well, very close to get the top five. Still some tries to go, or eight tries to go, but it's incredible to see guys like Tabutsadze, doing history, and we getting to commentate or watch history unfold, right?
100%, 100%. I mean, Akaki Tabutsadze is. It feels like no Rugby Europe Championship match involving Georgia is complete unless he scored at least two tries, often many more than two. He's just a phenomenal talent. Obviously, nicknamed the Bullet for people who are not familiar with him. He's got his trademark red scrum cap. Whether it's for Black Lion, whether it's for the Lelos national team themselves, he is lethal, utterly lethal. And I think people maybe overlook what he does beyond try scoring. His line breaks, the support lines that he runs, his patrolling of the backfield, his kicking game's actually pretty solid as well. And people also, I think, maybe write off. It's easy to look at stats like Tabutsadze's. I've not got the precise figures in front of me, but he's basically a try a game, isn't he? Sometimes he's better than that at Georgian level. Top Georgian try scorer comfortably. Scored again in the semi-final, thumping of Romania. And we're going to have a look at that try a little bit later on. But his numbers are insane. And people, I think, sometimes assume that, his numbers are insane because Georgia are so dominant. They're playing teams who aren't quite at the same level of infrastructure or talent or whatever. And he pads his numbers by running in 6 against Germany or 5 against Switzerland or 4 against this team or whatever team he's played over the years. But his output against so-called Tier 1 teams is good as well. He doesn't just score against Rugby Europe Championship rivals. He scores in big matches. He scored against Scotland before at Murrayfield. In fact, I think he's got a couple of tries against the Scots over the years. He was very dangerous against the Italians in November. Even going back to the World Cup against Portugal, he was excellent and scored in that thrilling draw in Toulouse in October 2023. So he's a wonderful talent, and the more we get to see of him, the better. You always wonder. You always think, oh, is there rightly or wrongly, is there a wealthy French president in the top 14 or the Pro D2 or even the National League with the way that league is going in terms of the finances and the ambition that's floating around down there? Is there a president that's going to get the checkbook out and go, all right, son, come and do us a turn for 3 or 4 years? And obviously that comes down to a lot of reasons as to maybe Tabutsadze doesn't want to go, maybe a French club would want him to not play for Georgia if he goes and commits to playing club rugby for them. But as far as Georgian rugby is concerned, as far as Black Lion, the Lelos and Richard Cockerell are concerned, the longer they keep him, the better. And the more we get to watch him, the more he's able to continue to put his best stuff out there for Georgia, the better for us in the media as well.
Perfect as always. Again, yeah, but we're going right to that moment. So, in what was Tabutsadze's 47th try, which got him into the top 10, the world top 10 of all time leading try scorers. Let's watch that moment, and here it is. So, Jamie, if you want to talk about how different this Georgia is nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing that stands out to me most in this clip, Francisco, is the ambition of Georgia. Yes, they almost get caught up, they almost get blitzed, but the skill here, the handling, the vision, the running off the ball, the support lines. Obviously, Tabutsadze does what he does, he finishes it off, but it's actually Shvelidze, the outside centre, who does so much of the heavy lifting in this try. And it's not what I think people's perceptions of Georgian rugby still is, widely speaking. I think those of us that work in this game, we're in the woods, we see what's going on and we see the development of the Georgian game plan. But I think the wider rugby public, who maybe isn't as engaged with this sort of competition as we are, would still assume that the Georgian rugby is solely the preserve and the domain of hairy-chested juggernauts who scrum all day and maul all day and stick up the jumper and don't play this kind of rugby. But goodness me, the backs that Georgia have, the half-backs, the likes of Matkava and Abshandadze, the 210s, Aprasidze, Lobshanidze, the two scrum halves. I think Aprasidze gets a touch on the support line in this try here as well. They're phenomenal, and they can cut teams open, particularly in the Rugby Europe Championship. Partly, yes, because they've got the forward dominance that allows them to take risks, that allows them to play like this. But I just love this from Shvelidze. Steps one, throws a dummy like a matador, looks outside one-handed, then pops it back inside to Aprasidze and Tabutsadze with a step and then the gas, and he's gone. And that is lethal, absolutely lethal. And there are very few teams, certainly at Rugby Europe Championship level, that would have stopped that try. It was brilliant and a very fitting way for Tabutsadze to extend this Georgian record and break into that top 10.
One of the things that you said, it was a try only played by backs, so there's not one forward coming in or taking or doing a slow carry or just a thumping carry. It was all quick, all slick. This Georgia is a problem, and I start with the questions. How can Spain stall or try to put an end to this type of Georgian melting pot, which when opens up is just shock and surprise and the biggest fireworks you're going to see?
Do you know, if I knew that, I'd probably be sitting in Razzie Erasmus's office with 4 World Cups and a bunch of medals behind me instead of a nice wallpaper that my fiancée chose for our office room. Honestly, mate, I think Spain can take, weirdly, although they lost 62-32, I think they can take a lot from the game in Madrid, the last round of pool matches, 2 rounds of Rugby Europe Championship action ago, because of the way they barred up in the first 10-15 minutes. They conceded a try, then Aritheta went up the other end, and they battered away and they scored. The game got away from them in the middle chunk of the match, and then they ended up scoring 32 points. I think it's the most they've ever scored against Georgia. They've got to take heart from that. They've got to try and hang their hat on that and build on it. But as is often the case, yes, Georgia's backs shredded them at points in the game, but Spain are capable of doing that just as easily. Where Spain were bludgeoned was up front, and I'm going to contradict myself a little bit by having spoken about the way that Georgia can cut you open out wide and the backs they have and the false perceptions, blah blah blah. Georgian rugby is still, and I'm sure will always be, founded upon having one of the meanest set pieces and some of the biggest, not just strongest, but most technical scrummagers, maulers, line-out operators in all of the sport. So for Spain to combat that will be exceedingly difficult. I think, the fact it's away from home, it's a monumental task. It is easily the biggest challenge in this competition is to go away to Georgia or to play Georgia anywhere in a final when everything's on the line. It is just a Herculean task for Spain. But you score 32 points against Georgia. You play encouraging attacking rugby. You show with the wit and the skill and the ruthlessness and the street smarts of guys like Tani Bai. Whether he starts or comes off the bench this weekend, we're not sure yet. Lopez Bontempo, who didn't play in that match, is back again. Merkler missed that match. Thierry Futeo missed that match. There are some big beasts in that Spanish squad who weren't available for that final pool match where they lost by 30 points. And I think Spain need to get everything right, to nail their set piece, to not be drawn into an arm wrestle with Georgia, because doesn't matter how big your biceps are, the Georgians are going to be bigger, and you're not going to win that tussle. So, yes, there are positives they can take, but they are still going to be rank outsiders to stop Georgia winning, 7th title in a row? Like, the dominance of this tournament is incredible.
Exactly. But still, there's some, when you were commenting on the game for Spain-Georgia in the third round, they Spain scored some beautiful tries, and that's our second moment of today's show. It was not from that game, but from the semifinal against Portugal. Gauthier Millon try, which was insane, in something that Spain can try to emulate and do it again against Georgia, and will do it very well. Let's watch it.
Yeah, it was a terrific game, this, and as you'd expect between the Iberian rivals, a real seesawing, ding-dong, high-tempo, attacking, high-scoring game of rugby. And I think this just typifies everything that Spain are about. I mean, you wonder how Portugal have been caught so short on defence straight off a restart like that. They haven't filled that left side of the field at all. But you look at the volume of players that Spain have, they identify the space on the right edge really quickly, and then they just come flooding through. Like the last pass on the inside back to Minguillon is a beauty. But the whole move, the more I watch it, the more I wonder. I'm sure there's a technical coaching reason for this, but why Portugal are so narrow in defence? Yes, they've got a man down at this point. They've got a sin binning, but they look horribly exposed here. And the way that Spain identify that, move it to space really quickly with the missed pass, and then suddenly they're 3-on-1 down the outside. I think Folds goes up the touchline, great cover tackle, but then the ability to just hold that ball, to wait for Minguillon, who's come across from the opposite flank, to play in that. You've got Thian and Minguillon, the two wingers, both combining down the same flank, along with the back three. The last pass, I couldn't see you through. It was a beautiful delay. There was a temptation, I think, to catch and pass that straight away from the inside centre as they go bursting down the outside. So Folds makes that bust, great hands, then he throws a little dummy, then flings it back on the inside. And he knows he just has to get out on the inside. He's got three players waiting. And yes, it's a little bit risky, but that's what you want. You want players taking risks. You want players backing themselves. You can try and discredit that and say, oh, he's launching it back into an area. But that's exactly what he should be doing, because he knows he's got three teammates there. And the chances are one of them is going to grab it, or it's going to end up in Spanish paws again. I just thought it was a really good display of ruthless attacking endeavour. Everything that, in fairness to Portugal, that Portugal are about as well, but certainly the symbol of Spanish rugby and everything that Spain can be and have been at points during this competition. Brilliant to watch.
is exciting, and it shows that Spain is not just four fours that work very well together, precise line out, good moles. Is also
Mhm.
well, they have Martin Etienne, who's one of the most exciting wings to watch. We have a lot of exciting wings to watch in the Men's Rugby World Championship, but Etienne and Millon are two of the best, and I think Gonçalo Lopes Bontempo
Mm.
performance against Portugal was pristine. It's incredible to have someone who can kick 27 points off the
Yeah,
boot and do two try assists. It's a perfect performance, right?
100%. I mean, he's one of Spain's key string pullers. He's obviously been in and out of the team with his commitments at in France, I think, with Massy over the past few weeks. But he's a fantastic playmaker, and I think he just gives him that control as well. He gives them a bit of calm and control, which, for all the ambition Spain have, you need the street smarts, knowing when to play, when not to play, when to run, when to kick, when to move it. And he clearly saw there was an opportunity there, got the ball moving quickly with it. It was pulled back to him, then he threw the miss pass out, and suddenly you've got three Spanish players on one Portuguese defender with a decent amount of space, and they go bang, 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 try. And Lopez Bontempo was imperious in that semi-final, and if selected, I'm sure he will be for the final. He will be utterly key to whatever Spain's chances are of causing what would be, goodness me, the biggest upset in, I mean, arguably in European rugby, full stop, for many a long year.
And I agree with you. Now, we're talking about ambition, and this try is all about ambition. Yes, Jesse Jägerlein try against Belgium, with the Switzerland at some point was a dominant team on the pitch, which is pretty remarkable, as this being the first season ever in the Men's Rugby Europe Championship. Jamie picked their try, so let's watch it.
I love this try, Francisco. I love the fact that I mean, they're a team with nothing to lose. Switzerland. They have attacked every challenge manfully, and yeah, look, they've been on the wrong end of some hidings. It's not. It was almost inevitable that they would, lose by a boatload of points against the likes of Georgia. That there's not a great deal that anybody, no matter how good your players or coaches are, can do about this. But the way that they have, I think, just approached life at this level, it's been completely, nothing to lose. Let's have a right crack at these teams. Let's go after these teams. See if we can put them under pressure. See if we can claim a scalp or two. And you're right, at points during this match, I don't think Belgium were ever in any danger, and that is, borne out by the scoreboard we're seeing here, under an hour gone, and they're 5 tries, 4 conversions up. But the way that Switzerland goes side to side, typical of the way they have played or tried to play in this competition, get the ball to width, use their big mobile loose forwards attacking wider channels, good lines of running, good support angles, and a thoroughly deserved try. We went on to lose that game 38-5, but it almost felt a little bit harsh to Switzerland in the end. Yes, Belgium were by far the better team and the more seasoned team, and a team that will feel they should be in semi-finals, not fifth place playoffs, for their own development in this competition. But I think Switzerland can take a lot from their exertions over the past month or so, and they've got an opportunity to have a go at the Germans. Big old game for them, and see what they can do.
Now, let's talk about Germany. They in the first half they were on the lead against Netherlands, and it was a surprise. Lynn Jones was not happy, and we could see it from the booth. But in the second half, things changed for the Dutch. But still, one of the things that you picked for us this week was the resilience that the Germany showed in the first half, defending their try line for almost 40 minutes. They conceded try in the last play of that half. So let's watch that that remarkable defense performance.
Yeah, Francisco, we've spoken a lot about attack and why not. It's sexy, isn't it? But you know what? Defense can be pretty sexy as well. And this was fantastic stuff from the Germans. I love the way that bodies are thrown on the line, that players are working for each other off the ball. Nobody wants to let the man beside them down. Nobody wants to be responsible for missing a tackle or stuffing up a clean. Again, the read here is really, really strong. There's a massive clean out coming in. And although the exit isn't great, it's still, I mean, it doesn't get them as far away down the pitch. They obviously have identified space there and going, look, if we chip into space, we can get the ball back. They haven't successfully recovered the ball. But again, here, the willingness, I mean, it's the fly half again who did all the defensive work to read the initial interception, has then come back, swept up, covered his backfield really well. The Dutch players, and I think Lynn Jones, were very frustrated by this passage of play in particular, not just because they surrendered the ball once, but because they did so twice inside the German 22. They've been bashing away for a fair old while. We're approaching the quarter of the game and they haven't scored at home. So they've coughed up there with the interception. Then they get another opportunity to attack because Germany don't quite get the angle, the height, the depth of this kick right. There's a little bit too much on it. Okay, you've got broken field attack, and you have a blast off it, and then what do? Well, your second row thinks he sees space in behind, and you've got your second row grubber kicking. Listen, I'm never going to criticize a second row for grubber kicking because I was a second row who loved to grubber kick, with much less successful results than the Netherlands second row in this clip. And you don't want to criticize a player for backing their skills at international level. If he thinks he's got it in his locker, go for it. If it's on, go for it. But I think Lynn Jones will be furious that if you look at it there, you've got a 3-on-2. Yes, 2 of the 3 are forwards. You've got a 3-on-2, and you've opted to kick it in behind, and you don't get the ball back. You end up conceding a scrum and go on to clear. So I think there'll be a degree of frustration there that it took as long as it did for the Netherlands to break the deadlock. But Germany should take a lot of credit for their scavenging work, their tenacity. I don't want to say bravery because it's such a patronising term to a professional sports team, but I think just their sheer desire to work for each other, to get off the line and to try and make things happen with and without the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And building from what you're saying, if it just breathes life to a defensive effort from the opposition, because Germany was there for like 8 minutes. We just chose one of those 1 minute of those 8, and it was that just gives more ambition to the team. Okay, we have held ourselves against a home team, against Netherlands, who are the favorites. So maybe luck and everything else is on our side today, and that can, help a team or push a team to become from a big to a giant juggernaut, right?
For sure, mate. I mean, I think like whatever level of rugby you've played at a high level. I've played at a much lower level. If you go through a period like that in a game where you're getting battered away and you're getting pounded on your own try line and you don't concede and you hang on, whether it's by great defence or wasteful attack, that can galvanise a team. It takes a lot of energy out of you, but it can galvanise a team. What I think, what some teams struggle with, and I would actually, obviously being a Scot myself, I think Scotland, even at Six Nations level, struggle with this, is how to wrest back momentum, how to turn the tables. Okay, you've been through a period of defence or a period of being under pressure. How do you flick the switch? How do you apply that pressure and turn the tables on your opponent? And that is sometimes something that I think some of the newer teams in the Rugby Europe Championship, quite naturally, because they've not played at this level, they don't necessarily have full-time athletes to choose from. They don't have guys playing in more established leagues in France or in England or in other parts of the world. It can be challenging for them because they mightn't have a fly half who can boot you 60 yards down the field, or a line out that can get you out of trouble, a scrum, or a massive second row, or a big tight 5 to just drag you up the pitch a bit and to relieve some pressure, then start applying it to your opponent. And that is something that the Germanys and Switzerlands of the world will struggle with because they're the newest teams. They don't have the same cattle as everybody else. And when you come up against a Georgia or Spain or Portugal or even a Romania, for example, you aren't going to be able to bring about enough of those momentum swings to mount a serious challenge. But I do think defensive sets like that, I mean, the German staff will be hugely heartened by the way that they just went after everything in that opening 20 minutes. They really did. They were under massive pressure in the Netherlands. Let's be honest, they should have scored points. They should have taken something from their slew of red zone attack. And you're right, you could see Lynn Jones getting a wee bit agitated about that. Maybe not agitated, but a little bit irked by the fact, I'm sure, that his team were squandering so many opportunities, especially at home, especially against a team that they should beat comfortably and did in the end go on to beat comfortably. But a defensive set like that, provided you don't spend the whole game doing it, can breathe a lot of life and belief and momentum into a team.
Exactly. And well, I don't have a clip from Lynn Jones after the game, but we have from Mark Koolman, Germany's coach, and we're now hearing a bit from the protagonists, just to then break down not what happened in the semifinal, but what teams have to do for the final. So let's start with head coach Mark Koolman from Germany.
Yeah, we know that it would be a difficult game today, as I said before, and I think we did the best we could get out of it. It was good. It was looking good at halftime, but in the end, yeah, well, the injuries brought us problems as well, and then the boys were tired. But I can't blame it on them. They fought for everything, and it's okay for today. It's okay.
Are there
Jamie, Germany and Switzerland are going to play for the 7th, 8th place. For the people who are not used to follow the Men's Rugby Europe Championship, the team who finished last for 2 seasons, or the team who has the lowest points after 2 seasons, gets relegated to the trophy level, which is a very competitive level also. So Germany wants to avoid it. Switzerland wants to avoid it. Hearing this from Mark Koolman, some injuries, but had 1 week to rest. What do you think they have to do to, well, defense is good, but attack, they need tries or to balance things off. So what, in your opinion, they have to do for this game against Switzerland?
This is an interesting dynamic, I think, for Germany, because as new boys last year, second season team this year, they will have spent a lot of time without the ball. They will have spent a lot of time defending, working hard for each other, clinging on, trying to get a foothold in games. This is a game where, depending on fitness, depending on lots of things, they could have a lot more of the ball. So what can they do with it? Can they be clinical? Can they put scores on Switzerland when they have opportunities? And vice versa for Switzerland. This is their big chance. This is their opportunity to, listen, for a start, to relegate Germany. I'm not sure. I don't know politically how much of a grudge there is between the Schwarze Adler of Germany and the Swiss. I don't know if it's a huge local rivalry. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in geopolitics in Switzerland and Germany, but I'm sure relegating one of your fairly near European rivals would be sweet. But Switzerland have got a shot to nothing here. This is the team who are closest to them in terms of their level, in terms of their experience at Rugby Europe Championship events, and they have proven that they can score fabulous tries. We showed you one of them just a few minutes ago. So I think for Germany, it's a real change in narrative. They've gone from scrapping and defending and trying to stay in the fight in games, for want of a better phrase, to looking to really dominate a game against a team who, on paper and in terms of experience, pedigree, blah, 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 they should beat. But it'll be very interesting having put so much into that game against the Netherlands, having defended for so long, some massive tackle counts as you'd expect, and clearly, as Mark Koolman was saying, a few sore bodies, a few walking wounded, a couple of boys who had to come off during the match, which dented their momentum. How many of those guys are going to be fit? How many can push through and play in this massive, effectively it's a must-win game for them to avoid dropping in the trophy. It's enormous for them. So can they go from being outsiders to favourites in a match? Can they handle the responsibility of being the team that should dominate possession, that should be applying more pressure, that should be effectively doing to Switzerland what the Netherlands look to do to them with their possession and their face play in the 22? It's a really interesting psychological dynamic, I think, this one.
And about psychological dynamic, Koen Bloom was talking exactly about that from the Dutch camp after the game. So let's hear it. He was already leaving some tips for the final, the 5-place playoff against Belgium, which is a big game for people to understand. The team who wins goes to the repechage tournament, and the victor in that competition gets to go to the Men's Rugby World Cup 2027. So let's hear from Koen Bloom.
Koen, great game today. What were the key elements in the win today?
First half, Germans surprised as well with attacking our ruck. They had the wind with them, so the kicks went very deep. We were struggling to find some solutions. Luckily, towards the end of the first half, we got some nice some nice mauls to go forward, scored of it. And then the second half, when we had the wind, we had some good ball possession, good territory. And then when the mauls were going forward, getting the points were going on the board, and then Germany struggled to keep up. But Germany was very well in the fight, and it was a good fight today.
I agree.
Jamie, Belgium, Netherlands is one of those rivalries, very old rivalries in the world of rugby. People might not know that, but it is a big one. And for the low countries derby, and you could hear from Kuhn, and let's go quickly on this. It was all about the moles. When the moles start to function, they start to get the upper hand on the game. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, 100%. I think that was a key element in just breaking that German resistance, and it's something that the Netherlands have gone to a few times, to be fair, as Spain have earlier in the competition with pretty sustained success. I think, honestly, this is my game of the round. I know it's silly. It's not the final. It's not even the third place playoff. But I think, given the rivalry, the history of these two teams, the fact that they are, in a lot of ways, really well matched, and what's riding on it. Yes, there's a title on the line. There's a third place finish on the line. There's relegation potentially on the line in the other matches. But I just think this game is going to be furiously hard fought. It's going to be, again, it's potentially a first ever ticket to Rugby World Cup men's edition for either of these teams. It's not happened before. They've got to go to the repechage and then win that. They've got a lot more work to do after winning this one, whoever does come out on top. But just to have that carrot is massive. I mean, the Belgium and Netherlands know they are very unlikely to win the Rugby Europe Championship. And the fact they didn't get into the Final Four has killed off automatic qualification hopes, as likes of Spain and Romania have taken those spots. So they've fallen at that hurdle, but they're not. That is their aspiration, but they're not expected to do that. They're not expected to go and consistently turn over these sides yet. That's not where they're at in their development. But one-on-one in the arena this weekend and Saturday, it's going to be epic. And I think just for everything that's riding on it, for the fact that the two of them had good wins, but wins that were not flawless or as simple as, let's say, the scoreline might have suggested. In either case, both won by about 30 points. I think it was 38-5. Belgium won. I think Netherlands won by around about the same scoreline or very similar. They've got a bit to work on, and it'll be so intense and febrile and aggressive and abrasive, both in the stadium and on the field. And there's just so much riding on this. It seems odd because it's a fifth place playoff. It's the kind of the playoffs. It's the one that in your head you think that doesn't matter that much. It's fifth place. Yeah, they want to win because they're pro athletes and they don't want to lose to their rivals. But what's riding on it? Actually, a bloody lot's riding on it. A chance to go and compete at a Rugby World Cup. That's massive. That is what everybody in this competition, I think, more than any other, wants to make happen, because the opportunity comes along so rarely, as we've seen with the horrible situation that Spain encountered not once but twice. It can be taken away from you very easily, and to get there can be transformative for the sport in your country, for your career. It is, for these guys, it is the pinnacle, and they've got a chance at continuing that climb towards the summit this weekend. So I can't wait. I think, I'm repeating myself over and over, but I think this is the most attractive game of the weekend for me, even though it ain't the final, it ain't a relegation shootout, it ain't even a third place playoff.
Yeah, well, I again, this is becoming normal to this show. I agree with you. You and me are getting Portugal and Romania to commentate, but for those four, the World Cup is already done, so they going to go to Australia. But for Netherlands and Belgium, there's still the dream is still on. It's still possible. And these last days before that game, the pressure, the stress, because it all so much rides, that it can be the turning point for any of them to become a stable union to a big union in a matter of 3 or 4 years. So, with that in our minds, let's hear from one of the biggest captains on our Rugby Europe landscape, Jens Toft, who was already looking forward to that match against Netherlands.
Great game today. What were the key elements in your win?
Yeah, thank you very much. The Swiss team is a really tough team to play. We want to really focus on our game, on what we're capable to do, like our strength, our game, and like I think we played really well in alternating between going forward, getting the ball outside, and everything on that. So that was really, and we were really opportunists. So when we put the speed in, it worked. So that was a really good thing for us.
Jamie, the word here to lock our attention is opportunists, and
Yeah.
like Jento, do you think Belgium, if they are opportunists against Germany, will Germany against Netherlands, will that be enough to beat Lean Jones, man?
It's so tight. I think Jens is absolutely correct in what he says, unsurprisingly. When Belgium moved the ball, when they created opportunities, they took them. And that shattered any Swiss hopes of a shock on semi-final weekend. Do you know, I really struggle with this game because there are two teams that are very, very well matched. I think the Netherlands pack might have an edge. I think the way that they can maul, the way that they can rock and roll up front could swing it for them. But I also think Belgium have been probably more successful this year in racking up points, in moving the ball, in attacking impetus, ball handling, etc. So I'm not going to say it's a clash of styles. I think that's too simplistic. But oh god, it's so hard to call. I mean, yes, if Belgium do what they set out to do, then yes, I think they probably will win. But if they're off their game, I mean, there's so many factors at play. If they are as opportunist as they were against the Swiss, they're going to be in a great position to do it. But the Netherlands are, with all due respect to Switzerland, going to be a much tougher test. They'll be much better at slowing Belgian possession down, at spoiling Belgian ball, and at keeping ball away from Belgium's dangerous runners.
And now, just to finish this part of the 5th to 8th place conundrum, we're going to hear from Olivier Nier, Switzerland's head coach.
What are your thoughts after the game? Where do you feel the areas you can work on?
It was a very hard game, very tough game. I think the score is not in relation with the game we did. We use a lot the ball. We try to find solution, but Belgium was better today. We are step by step building a wonderful adventure with this Swiss team, and it's just a step. Thank you very much.
Jamie, step by step, we are working to build a wonderful adventure for this Swiss team. Do you see it like this?
Oh, 100%. I think you have to see it like this. You can't come in as a new team with the infrastructure that Switzerland have and just expect to blow teams away, expect to be highly competitive on the scoreboard with these teams. It's not realistic. So that is exactly the way that the Swiss staff, players, coaches have to look at it. It's incremental gains. It's how long can you stay in the battle against the teams above you? Not so much against the Georgians, but against teams like the Netherlands, like Belgium, who are probably on that next level within this competition. You could arguably, if we're being really simplistic and slightly offensive to some teams, you could probably split the competition into tiers and say, look, Georgia are on a tier of their own. Nobody's touched them in forever. Then you've maybe got Portugal, Spain, Romania on that next level beneath them, and beneath that you might say Netherlands and Belgium are fighting to get up there with Portugal, Spain, and Romania. Some would say they're already up there. Then you've got Germany and Switzerland on the level, or maybe even two levels beneath that. So that's really simplistic, and as I say, it's far too dismissive of nuances in certain teams. But if we're being really, really basic about it, Switzerland can't expect to come onto the bottom rung of the ladder and suddenly jump 6 places and go, yeah, we're going to beat Georgia and win a Grand Slam, win the whole thing. It's all about learning, embracing experiences, being exposed to this quality of opposition, which a lot of the players won't have experienced before, whether they're in France or not. You're not coming up against Akaki Tabutsadze every weekend. You're not coming up against, Storty every weekend. Guys of that caliber. So I think for Switzerland, the first thing is about staying in the competition. Obviously, you get that opportunity next year because they're the new boys, they're not going to go down, but stay in the competition as long as you can, consolidate yourself in it, and make sure that you're growing year on year, that you are improving, that you are getting closer, that you and hopefully improving your player base as well in the background. All these things go hand in hand with the high performance structures that they have. Trying to get players into better competitions in France is something that Spain have been successful in over the past 5 to 10 years, having a lot of their top talent going and leaving the Ligue d'Honneur and going and playing in France and being exposed to high level of rugby on a more regular basis. All things that'll help them. But just being operating at this level, the TV deals have been well publicised this year for the Rugby Europe Championship, and having exposure, having more eyeballs on the game in all the competing countries is only going to help rugby grow, is only going to make rugby more popular across these nations. And in the long term is only going to benefit the flow of players, which are the lifeblood of the game, from the grassroots up to the top echelon. So yes, I think the way that Switzerland are looking at it philosophically is it's exactly the right way to look at it. You can't look at it any other way, I don't think.
Exactly, and that's the best way to put in words what is the Rugby Europe Championship between the men's or the women's. So now looking forward to the two semifinals, for the bronze final and the gold final. Let's start with Tomás Appleton, who was not very happy with Portugal's performance, but let's hear from him.
We just feel disappointed. Honestly, I think we were a bit too arrogant today. I think we got ahead of ourselves after the wins on the pool stages and we didn't manage the game well, especially the areas of the field. We need to be more adults, of course. This team is in a building process, but today we had a reality check, and congrats to Spain, that deserved it.
Jamie, reality check, growing. It was a stern but reasonable way to look to the game from Tomás, right?
Just when I thought I couldn't love, idolise, worship Tomás Appleton anymore, he gives us an interview like that. That's a captain speaking. That is a leader speaking. Sometimes players need the stick, sometimes they need the carrot, and they've got a big Portuguese stick right across their backsides there. Arrogant, be more adult, manage the game better. We're in a growing phase. Some of them are quite calm and measured words. Some of them are very frank. And I can't think of many rugby interviews, certainly, post-match with a captain, where the captain has spoken that honestly and that critically, not just of his players' performance, people do that all the time, but of his players' mindset. And that is one thing as a journalist or a commentator who's never set foot in an arena as rarefied as this, never mind the World Cup as Appleton has as captain. You don't question that as a journalist. You don't introduce that as a thread of criticism. You're not qualified to say your mindset was wrong to make that statement. You can ask about it. You can ask, were the boys but mentally off it today? But you can't claim that a professional athlete is mentally weak or frail. You don't have the credentials to do that. So for a captain to come out and do that, that carries real weight, real significance. And I think that was a very powerful, what was it? It was a 20-second clip. It felt like 20 minutes watching it. Incredibly powerful and really indicative of not just Appleton's frustration, but his own mentality. He's clearly saying in that clip, Portugal thought they had the game won to some extent before they played it, because they'd been doing well in the pool stage, because they'd given a decent account of themselves against other nations out with the Rugby Europe Championship, like Scotland in the autumn, a game that you and I were working at, where yes, they were heavily beaten, but I think there were a lot of positives that Portugal could take from going up to Murrayfield and given given a decent reflection of where they're at in a transition phase under Simon Mannix post Patrice Lagisquet. So I was really staggered by that interview. Really impressed by it. Tomasz Appleton is a very, very totemic figure within European rugby, particularly carries such respect and reverence in Portuguese rugby for what he's done and how he goes about his business. But he was clearly saying, as I said before, Portugal got their approach wrong. They obviously tried to play too much rugby. Portugal want to play rugby. They want to throw the ball around. That was the same way under Lagisquet. It's a similar way, albeit a bit more conservative under Mannix. But they've tried to play in the wrong areas too many times. They've got their fingers burnt. They've conceded a shed load of points, and they've lost to their Iberian rivals. They've given up the chance to go and have a crack at Georgia for the second year running and go and have a real go at them and try and upset the odds. I mean, geez, they were one Nuno Sousa-Gedge kick away from beating them in a World Cup, never mind the Rugby Europe Championship final. So you can see the frustration. You can see, I think, even a tinge of embarrassment. He's owning up to that, Tomasz Appleton, by saying that, we were arrogant. I think he's annoyed at the way he and his teammates have approached it, and perhaps a little embarrassed that maybe they took Spain a bit too lightly. Maybe they tried to... They tried the flamboyant stuff, the World Cup passes, the miracle balls, and the overly risky stuff too often in the wrong areas of the game, and didn't manage it as well as he says. So I love that interview. I love the man. I think he's a brilliant rugby player and a fantastic leader. But you can see a real sense of anger and regret in the way that Portugal have spurned the chance to go to another final.
Exactly. And, well, talking about captains and captains who are very sober in their post-match analysis, let's hear from Álvaro García, Spain's captain for the game against Portugal.
I mean, it's been a really, really tough match. We knew Portugal plays really, really good. Today we've been superior either in scrum and line-out, so and we've been generally quite dominant. So I think it's that's the main reason why we got this result.
Jamie, quick and very on point. Spain was simply perfect in the lineouts, in the scrums, in the set piece, in the maul, in the rucks, in the physical contest. So this is the Spain that we all want now for the future, right?
Oh, totally. And you can see, I think the difference in mindset between the two teams is illustrated in those interviews. Tomasz Appleton bemoaning his team's lackluster, perhaps overly presumptuous approach to the game. And Álvaro García, who of course is now playing with the great Stade Francais up in Paris, is lauding his team's approach to nailing every single detail. I think that maybe speaks to two teams, one of whom thought if they turned up and played 6 out of 10, they'd have enough ammunition to outgun Spain, and one of whom knew they had to be 100% or as near as damn it on the money to make sure they beat them. Because last year's semi-final was close, but Portugal were the better team, established a bit of lead. It got close late on, but Portugal deserved to put them away in Lisbon last year. This time around, not the case at all. And to score 42 points against Portugal, that's big for Spain. That's really, really big. Yes, they shipped 31, but Portugal are a very dangerous team, as we know, and as Tomasz Appleton said, they wanted to run everything, rightly or wrongly as it transpired. So for Spain to boss Portugal in the tight exchanges, in the set piece, in the kicking battle, and then to outscore them pretty comprehensively, to put 42 points to them, beg your pardon, that's hugely encouraging. I'm not saying they're going to go and do the same to Georgia, but if you can handle the Portuguese set piece, if you can score, I mean, let's be honest, their combined total between the pool match and the semi-final against Georgia and Portugal, they've scored 73 points in those two games. 73 points against last year's finalists, one of whom's a serial champion. That's really heartening, really positive. World Cup qualifications in the bag. Nothing to lose going into finals weekend. Absolutely nothing to lose. Go and have a go at them. You need to be, if you were 100% on it or 95% on it against Portugal. You've got to be 100% on it against Georgia, and even then it might not be enough. Probably won't be enough. But I think Spain can take so much from all the things that Alvaro Garcia is talking about around their set piece, their diligence, their detail, and their mindset. I mean, it was probably a tale of two psychologies, one of which was slack and maybe a little bit lackluster, as I said, and one of which was motivated, aggressive, and accurate.
Exactly. And Spain's going to Tbilisi to play against Georgia. And let's hear some commentaries after that, the other semi-final, Georgia, Romania. Let's start with Mario Siminescu, who's coming to Lisbon now to play for the bronze final against Portugal.
Just means up clarity, and that's it. Physicality was there, attitude was there, but we do the little mistakes.
How are you going to prepare for the next match in 2 weeks?
More harder than this game. We want to win there, and we must be proud of ourselves.
Okay.
Jamie, for people saw the scoreline compared to last season, thought that Romania is in the same place. I watched the game and that was not the feeling I had. I think Romania progressed because in some moments of the game you could see that the two teams were sparring in the half-line field. Georgia didn't have an easier game like they had last season. Of course, they scored a buckload of tries against Romania. Not that many, but still, Romania was close to score more, 2 or 3rd try. And now against the Lobos, do you think we're going to have the same kind of game that we had on the 3rd round of the pool stage? Or we're going to have something completely different this time around?
It's fascinating. I think Portugal are scorned and angered and probably a bit bitter about the way they lost that game, if Tomas Appleton's interview is anything to go by. So I would expect a very aggressive, visceral response from Oshlobush. I don't think they'll be that sloppy again mentally. Romania, I think, Mario Siminescu, obviously not speaking in his first language, and he's pretty brief, clearly pretty disappointed in that interview, I think, with Tatia down in Georgia. But I think there's maybe a little bit of frustration that while they never looked like beating Georgia, they were in the battle. That's what a lot of coaches talk about. Stay in the fight, stay in the battle when you're playing a much fancied or on paper superior opponent. See how long you can stay in the battle, and then when you get in the last 20 minutes, who knows, so things could change. So I think this will be a little bit of frustration from Romania that it wasn't like they had a gilt-edged chance to beat Georgia, but they'll feel they shouldn't have lost by 38 points. I think it was 43-5 full time. And you're right. I think the flow of the game, maybe the scoreline was a bit harsh on Romania based on how they played, based on, I think, the physicality that Romania can bring, not always, but can bring, is compelling. And they are one of the few teams who, look, they can't go toe-to-toe with the Georgian power. Nobody in this competition, very few in the world can. But they can hold their own better than most. And, you've got experienced, narrow players like Julian Hartig, Lucid Prop, just aggressive, nuggety, tough competitors. I think it'll be incredibly close in the game. I'm really looking forward to commentating on it, actually, mate. You and I are obviously doing that game on Sunday afternoon Central Time, and I think it'll be feisty. I think both teams have got a point to prove. Romania will hope that that defeat didn't take too much out of them in terms of legs and lungs and bodies, albeit being a Sunday game, it does give them a little more time to recover. And I think Portugal will look for, especially at home, will look for a massive reaction. So it's very, very finely poised. I would make Portugal slight favourites based on the track record they have in this competition, based on the fact they have, they perhaps, I mean, you're the expert on this stuff, mate, but they probably haven't grasped the opportunity that the World Cup positivity provided for them in terms of what's going on behind the scenes. From what I hear from yourself and others in Portugal, it feels like that there's a concern that the opportunity to really use that amazing win over Fiji, the draw with Georgia, the passion, the fervour, the momentum that brought might be at risk of being squandered if certain changes aren't made behind the scenes and certain things aren't improved. But I would make them slight favourites for this game, and I think they will finish third. I think they'll beat Romania.
And to finish things off, let's hear from Beka Gorgazic, Georgia's captain, to finish the show before Jamie does his prediction. So let's hear from Beka.
What are your feelings after the victory?
Satisfied and really happy, because I think we achieved the result we wanted in the semi-final, to assume the victory and go through the final in 2 weeks. So yeah, I think the goal is achieved, and now we're gonna move on and then prepare for the final.
Thank you very much. Good.
Jamie, to very rapidly talk about this, Gorgazic was happy, and they should. Do you think they're heading for another title renewal?
It would be a very brave man or a very foolish gambler with far too much money to bet against Georgia in this final. Their record speaks for itself. I mean, they have been virtually relentless in their pursuit of titles, trophies, statement victories in this competition. And look, I will be careful what I say, because I'm not in any way criticising this tournament or the teams that are involved in it. But I think Georgia feel, and have felt for a while, they want more. They want bigger challenges. They want to play so-called Tier 1 teams more often. They want to go to Twickenham. They want to go to Murrayfield. They love those teams to come to Tbilisi as well and play in front of a seething 40,000 in the Georgian capital. And geez, how good a spectacle would that be when you think to some of the big grudge matches and the real teeming atmospheres that we've seen in Tbilisi over the years, particularly when the likes of Russia were still involved in the competition, and we'd go to Tbilisi and you'd have 40,000 there, and it would be a real cauldron. You would get that. You would probably sell the thing out 2 or 3 times over if you had, England or the All Blacks or Scotland, Ireland, France, Australia, whoever going up to Georgia to play. There is a huge appetite for more. There is, as far as I understand it, the money to back up that ambition, to try and get the Black Lion into the URC, to try and get more regular cracks at teams of with all due respect, a higher standing and pedigree in the rugby world than what they're playing week on week. So I think it's always an interesting. We talk a lot about mindset. I think it's always an interesting mindset for Georgia coming into these matches, because they are colossal favourites for whoever they're playing against, whatever match it is. They are the overwhelming favourites. Nobody expects Spain to go to Tbilisi and turn them over. How amazing it would be, how brilliant for this competition it would be. Apologies to any Georgian listeners if they did it, but nobody thinks that's going to happen. I suspect privately a lot of Spaniards will understand it's immensely unlikely, not impossible, but immensely unlikely. So I think the mindset challenge for Georgia is to keep your standards high, is to not fall into the trap that perhaps Tomasz Appleton was suggesting Portugal fell into in the semi-final. They can't drop their standards. They can't assume victory before actually winning the thing. So no, I don't think Spain will beat them. But it's sport. There's always a chance. And I think for Georgia, the important thing is just to continue to control what they can control. They can't do anything about rugby politics or the forthcoming Nations Championship in July next year, or how the authorities divvy up the rugby calendar and what opportunities. They can't affect that. That is done at board level. What they can do is continue to win, continue to smash everybody out the park in the Rugby Europe Championship, and continue to press their cases forcefully as they can on the pitch as well as off it. And with a guy like Richard Cockerell, they've got a very, very powerful advocate for what they want to achieve. And you can see that the development in their game. I think people think Richard Cockerell goes there and, it's perfect for Georgia because it's all crash, bang, wallop, unimaginative, boring, kick and clap, up the jumper, use the power game to do it. And yeah, Georgia will use the power game because why not? It's their USP. But as we discussed at the start of this podcast, when we looked at the Tabutsadze try, Georgia have got wheels. Georgia have got ammunition. They've got brain to match their brawn. They've got magic to match their muscles. And I would love to see them playing so-called Tier 1 teams more regularly. And I hope and believe that will happen in the next few years.
Jamie, you already did one of the predictions, so Georgia, Spain. What's the scoreline for you in the end?
Scoreline for me, I think Georgia 42, Spain 17.
Okay, the game is on Sunday. You can watch it on Rugby Europe TV. It starts at 12 p.m. Locally, it's 4 p.m. Now, the other game on the Sunday, Portugal, Romania at 3 p.m. What's your prediction in the end?
I think we're going to have another high-scoring shootout involving Oslobos, and I think Portugal will have just a little bit too much firepower for Romania. I think it will be Portugal 32, Romania 25.
Oh, but still a very close contest. It's going to be interesting.
I think we'll edge it, but I think it'll be close. I hope it's close. It's better fun to commentate
on. On Saturday, the day before, we have Germany, Switzerland as the last game of that day at 2:45 p.m. Germany, Switzerland. So, who's going to be the victor in that game?
I think this will be close as well, mate. I think I could see the final becoming a bit one-sided. I think it will be competitive at the start, but I think Georgia will just have too much, especially at home, and will overwhelm Spain. Hence why I've gone with a 25-point.
Sorry, I
win.
was saying,
but I think for don't worry, mate. I'm getting there.
Sorry.
Too much. Don't worry. So I think that'll be the most one-sided game, in terms of the final score. I think the other three could all be really close. I think. Do you know, part of me is tempted to back Switzerland here just because of the sheer exertion that Germany had, the injuries they had. I think. Do you know what? I'm gonna back the underdog here. I think Switzerland will win it 24-19.
Ooh, this is unexpected prediction, but we all are going to be watching to see if Jamie is right or not.
Mate, if I call this right, I'm putting my lottery numbers on next week.
Yes, you are. On Twitter, everywhere. And Netherlands, Belgium. So many expect the Dutch to win it. It's your expectation as well. The game played at 12 p.m. on Saturday, the 15th of March.
Mega game. Mega game. I said before, it's the one I'm looking forward to most, despite the fact that it's arguably it's the middle playoff. It doesn't have anything tangible riding on it normally, but with that Rugby World Cup carrot, it's huge. I think, oh goodness, this has been bouncing around my mind all week when I knew I had to make predictions on this. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be a lot of play in the middle third where we're going to see a lot of kicking back and forth because teams are not going to want to risk playing too much, particularly having been a bit, in the Netherlands case, a bit wasteful on the weekend. I think it's going to be Netherlands 22, Belgium 20. I'm going to go with a 2-point win for the Netherlands.
Oh, it's with a last-minute penalty for Belgium. They can't put on the. Do
you know what I mean? A drop goal. Second row, drop goal, 50 meters off a goal line dropout. Sails between the posts. Crowd goes wild. Oh. Jamie Lyall's prediction is correct.
Oh well, if you get it right, we're gonna have another lottery for you to to fill it. Jamie, thank you for coming for the Stars and Scrums. It was
Pleasure.
Our fourth show. You can hear Jamie on the weekend calling the Portugal-Romania game. You can also follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and all the other social media. Jamie is a lead commentator for a lot of brands now, and also for
anybody who wants to pay me, I'll do it. Yeah.
And you can also read his stuff on Rugby Pass, so you can catch him and talk with him. He's very sociable. He's very easy to talk with. So if he gets right on his predictions, talk to him. If he gets wrong on it, also talk with him and say and give a shoulder to cry on, or just pick a fight with him if you want. I'm
I think I'm gonna have a lot of angry German and Belgian fans in my DMs.
But it is what it is, Jamie. It's predictions, and let's see if we get it right. Or watch all the action on Rugby Europe TV and to watch the games. Be sure to see where the game is going to be shown on your country, because some have, like in Portugal, Sport TV, or in Belgium it shows in national television. So be sure where the game is showing. It's not geo blocked because of those broadcasting rights. But as always, thank you for coming for the Stars and Show, and for everyone. The Women's Rugby Europe Championship will start in the end of March, so we're going from one championship to the other, and it's very important, this one, because Spain is getting ready for the Women's World Cup, and it's everyone's game. So, Jamie, thank you. Let's say goodbye to the people at home.
Thanks for having me, mate. Much appreciated.
And see you on this weekend.